Hey, I'm Nick Holden. I'm a software engineer at WorkOS. I work on the AuthKit team.
Nick, hey, glad you're
Thank you.
here.
Glad
Hey,
to be here.
how's the conference been so far for you?
Yeah, it's been great. Great opening keynote. We had like these big 6 new features that we churned out all at once, which is great. Let's see. Besides that, some good panels so far.
Yeah.
Really great questions talking about security, AI productivity. Yeah, some really big names. It's been a good conference
Yeah.
so far.
What are some of the things that we announced this morning? I actually,
Yeah.
honest question, because I've been sitting here, I didn't get to see any of it.
Yeah, this is a good quiz. Let's see if I can remember everything that we talked about. Okay. So this, in no particular order, we talked about AuthKit for platforms. So that is basically saying, well, we had James from Convex who came and gave this demo of what does it look like to create a new Convex project and have AuthKit just work with it straight out of the box, which is pretty cool. Before it was a lot of like copying environment variables and setting redirect URIs and doing all
Yep.
this configuration. Now it's just like
I
hit a
helped with
couple
that
buttons.
post. It's a lot of
Yes,
steps.
yes. Now it's like hit a couple buttons in the CLI and it just works. So
I
that's
love it.
awesome. So, and yeah, the theme there being like, AuthKit can work with more platforms than that because, like, we've got like integration with Laravel, with the
Yep.
starter kits, we've got Supabase, and like more to come. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
But what else? We talked about. You already talked to Eric about Stripe
Red
billing.
billing,
You talked
pipes.
to Dan about pipes.
Yep.
Yep. Tobin gave a great presentation on AuthKit for ChatGPT apps, which I don't even really know what ChatGPT apps are yet because they came out like last week. But he was able to order a T-shirt and render an iframe, and it was pretty
Awesome.
sick. So that was cool. Of course, like star of the show, WorkOS Studio. Like
Yeah.
build your internal apps, enterprise
Super
ready,
cool.
use your users and orgs, have permissions working. Yes, that was certainly the highlight. Those are the big ones, and then I had API keys to demo. So like that
Awesome.
was the big one for
Tell me
me.
about API
Yep.
keys,
Yeah. So API keys. Um, every B2B app will eventually need APIs.
especially with AI. You're going to have like gazillions of them.
Exactly. Yeah. So both humans and computers and AIs need to talk to APIs to get programmatic access to your data and your application. As part of that, you need a way to authenticate. And the easiest way to do that, the most like familiar way for most developers is using API keys. So having like an authorization header in your API request and then sending along a key and then you get your response. Yeah, but I guess the issue with creating API keys yourself is that you've got to think of how do I do this securely?
Yeah.
How do I create and manage these keys? How do I not like store raw text of keys in my database that could get leaked somehow? How do I have a user interface for my end user to create API keys and all sort of that, all that sort of stuff? Yeah. So today we basically announced that we have widgets. So widgets are WorkOS's sort of like drop-in components. They're React components you can put directly in your app, and we've got one of these for API keys
Awesome.
that basically lets you have a button that says create API key. You give it a name, you give it some permissions, and then you've got a key that you can go ahead and use in your app, as well as some SDKs so that you can validate that those API keys are valid. So given a token, like, should this person have access to this resource? And if so, return your response, and if not, return unauthorized or whatever.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. How do you see this, kind of like over the next, period of time, like
Hmm.
integrating with some of the other services that we, either have or, announced today? Like,
Yeah, so this is all built on top of organizations. Basically, today, all API keys are associated with an organization. So that would represent one of WorkOS's customers.
okay, yep,
So in our example today, the developer had an app called Vibe Check.
love it.
And the idea is that Vibe Check is a way to like see customer metrics. And so as the person who's developing Vibe Check, I can drop the API keys widget into the app. And then an organization in this case would be an end user of Vibe Check who wants to check in on their customer metrics and then wants to give programmatic access to, I don't know, an AI agent for some reason. But yeah, so the way that it integrates now into WorkOS is that each API key is associated with an organization. So each of your customers will have a different set of API keys so that you can sort
Awesome.
of scope the responses. So you're only returning things that are relevant to those organizations. So yeah, that's the way it's associated with current primitives inside of WorkOS. I think in the future we'd probably have like user scoped API keys. That's like still something we're thinking about. But if you think about like a GitHub personal access token, for example, like that's just like a really easy way to get started with a key that's like associated with one person.
Yeah.
And I think we're still trying to figure out exactly what the right model looks like there. So, yeah, I think that's ways that it's like connected to the primitives that exist today. In terms of where we're headed, we're thinking about this in the context of like AI agents and
Yeah.
how they should get access to data. And I think there's a lot of ways. I mean, we've got MCP Auth
Yep.
already, which is for, setting up your MCP servers.
Yeah.
This is like just another authentication method, basically. I think that like different AI agents are going to be accessing data in different ways.
Yeah.
You see like AI scraping web pages, you see AI with like very purpose-built tools in MCP. And then I think that you're going to have AI that's going to be accessing regular REST API endpoints as well and using sort of like more traditional API key auth. So like we just want to make, your data accessible to AI or humans like in any way that they need it.
Yeah. No. So a question that I want to get ahead of is
Yeah.
what does what differentiates like API keys and our Vault products? Like what are those targeted at?
Mm,
It's like, for me, I like think keys and,
yeah.
vaults and all that stuff. How are they differentiated? What's the
Yeah.
line there?
That's a good question. So when I think of Vault, I think of how do I take data that I want to be encrypted and store it safely and then be able to retrieve it later at
Okay.
some point. API keys is I guess it's similar in that like there is this secret thing that we're storing on your behalf and then you will want to access it in the future. I think the way that it's different is that API keys are, I would say that Vault is more of a general solution for how do I encrypt and decrypt data. And API keys is sort of like a purpose-built, like, okay, this is an API key that like, well, for one, you only see the value of your API key one time, and then we sort of hash it, and then nobody has access to it ever again in the future. And then two, it's sort of like the set of operations that you can take on the API key, like revoke it,
Yeah.
like give it a set of permissions that you've set roles and permissions inside of
Oh,
WorkOS.
interesting.
That's actually should have mentioned before. Yeah, so another primitive in WorkOS that API keys are built on top of are permissions. So
Very
if you
cool.
already have roles and permissions set up in WorkOS, then you can add existing permissions to API keys.
Interesting.
That connected back to the difference between Vault and API keys in that API keys all have sets of permissions associated with them
Oh, I
as
love that.
well. So yeah, I would say API keys are probably like more purpose built for this concept of API keys. You could probably roll your own API
Sure.
keys on top of WorkOS Vault, but this is sort of like packaged all together with the widget, with the specific SDKs that sort of is shaped in a way that feels familiar if you're a developer and you've like, I don't know, used a product that has used API keys before.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things working with talented people like yourself at WorkOS is that we, sweat the details. Are there any details that you feel particularly proud of or feel like you got right in this product?
Yeah, I think that we've all built API keys in B2B SaaS apps like a few times before. And so like everybody who worked on this project was like, what are the mistakes that I made in
Yeah.
previous projects and like how can I not make them this time? I think one of the touches that I like a lot that you do see in some other products, but some folks miss it is a last used at timestamp. So each
Nice.
time you validate your API key, we touch that timestamp so that when you go into the dashboard, go into the widget to see like which of these API keys are actually being used,
Yeah.
you've got that timestamp, which is super helpful because like if you have 10 API keys, like you want to know like, did I use this one in the last few months? Is it safe to revoke? Or if
Yeah.
am I going to hit revoke and like accidentally break like some bespoke app some other developer made over in this corner that I just don't know about? Because I have definitely done that before.